This is Dan Meyer with RCR Wireless News. We're here at the CCA event in Las Vegas. I'm here with Dave Hagan from Boingo Wireless. Dave, thanks for joining us today.
You bet, Dan.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Maybe start out with, I know you guys had an announcement this morning with CCA. Can you give us some more, in-depth knowledge on that and what it involves with the new agreement?
You bet, Dan. So we're very excited about it. It's a comprehensive agreement with the CCA, which allows CCA members to get a true carrier offload solution onto Wi-Fi networks through Boingo.
Okay, gotcha. Now I know Boingo, you guys do Wi-Fi offload. You guys have been known for Wi-Fi before Wi-Fi was a big thing. You guys were kind of one of the first ones out there, really. How has that market evolved, and how have you seen the growth in that kind of public Wi-Fi space, and how it's kind of grown to really become an offload alternative for cellular carriers?
Yeah, we've been at it since 2001, the founding of the company, and in the early days, Wi-Fi was built where people congregated with laptops.
It was a Starbucks thing or whatever it was.
Well, Starbucks and airports and
or
convention centers like this, and hotels. So the travel ribbon plus some other places like Starbucks.
Yeah.
But where people were going with laptops. And it's evolved now, and I like to call it halftime in the Wi-Fi industry after 10 years. We're at halftime, because now it's being driven by where people are congregating with smartphones, tablets, and other consumer devices. So think about anywhere people go. So it can be restaurants, it can be shopping centers, retail stores, cafes. So literally everywhere where people are going, what's the first thing we all do now? Maybe somewhat socially rudely, but we pull out our smartphone and it's on the table next to us.
Yeah.
And so every one of those locations ultimately, over the next several years, we'll get a Wi-Fi network built. So that's our focus now at Boingo, is getting all these new locations driven by the smartphone revolution to be built out with Wi-Fi networks.
Have you been surprised by the support from carriers to get involved in this? Because it does seem like, carriers initially were very kind of maybe arm's length when it came to Wi-Fi. I mean, they knew it was there. There's a few partnerships out there. There was a few initiatives that kind of came out. But it seems like over the past, as you mentioned, the smartphone revolution has really kind of maybe pushed that more and more for them. Have you been surprised, or what's been your reaction to their support for Wi-Fi and for using it as offload?
Well, we've been working at it for a long time.
Okay.
Since 2001, talking to carriers. But you're right, the carriers didn't really embrace Wi-Fi early on, with a couple exceptions. T-Mobile was pretty active in the very early days, and then AT&T, kind of midway through the first decade, if you will, Wi-Fi got involved. Yeah. But now I think it's universally accepted on a global basis that carriers will want and need additional technology to their cellular networks, and Wi-Fi being one of the leading small cell technologies to make that happen. So we feel like we're now in the club, in the carrier industry, and that we can help the carriers achieve their goals.
Gotcha. And then with CCA, with that agreement, obviously you guys can kind of reach out to maybe more of the smaller guys out there who maybe are still early in their kind of mobile broadband deployments, but it seems like you're getting in maybe at the ground level for those guys. And the technology seems like it's more proven now, so maybe it's an easier decision for them to maybe come and say, hey, maybe that's the way we can go for some data offload too.
Yeah, I think as the smartphone penetration continues to grow, and it's probably a little lower amongst CCA member companies than it is the tier 1 carriers, but probably not that far behind now that it's been since 2007.
And they get the iPhone now, so there you go.
Now the iPhone's in the market, which really started this whole thing. Yeah. And so we saw it as an opportunity to work with the CCA to aggregate the smaller carrier demand so that we can come up with a great solution for the smaller carriers that work for them, work for us, and economics that work for all parties. So we're really pleased to be partnering with the CCA to bring this to the market.
Gotcha. And I guess maybe one final question, kind of looking at the whole ecosystem of small cells. I mean, obviously you guys specialize in Wi-Fi, but you also do DAS too.
We do.
So you guys have your hand in kind of a couple of those technologies that are being talked about a lot. I mean, how is that market evolving, and where do you see it going over the next, I don't want to say just 6 months, but maybe a year, 2 years from now? I mean, is that market does seem to have a lot of momentum, and it seems like the carriers and everybody's getting really involved with that right now. I mean,
there's a network topology transition that's going on, and it was all about monolithic large cell towers, right? The cellular industry was built on towers that covered miles of geography, and that works great in a voice-dominated world, right? Whereas really the most important thing was, could you get reception so you could do a phone call? Yeah. And that's clearly changed. We now use these devices for much more than voice. In fact, I think we spend more time doing data than we do doing voice on on smartphones. And so what that means is that there's incredible bandwidth being drawn into each one of these devices, and so you need to break up the cell technology into smaller cells. Makes sense, it's a math problem that we're solving for. And so Wi-Fi is a key way, not the only way, there are others, DAS, femto technology, small cell technology, but Wi-Fi has the best economics and highest throughput, right? So it's lowest cost, highest throughput, most bandwidth available in the free unlicensed spectrum band, which makes it just incredibly economical for offload. And so that's why you see Wi-Fi now proliferating and you see carriers embracing the technology.
Is there any concern yet about running out of spectrum in that unlicensed space? I mean, I know there's been a lot of talk about the 5 gig space as being a kind of a bastion at some point to be able to really tap into that more and more. I mean, is the 2.4 really become kind of a congestion where it is need to kind of start looking outside of that and hopefully maybe even the government maybe getting involved in providing some more unlicensed spectrum bands for Wi-Fi to future growth?
Well, I think the strategic answer to your question is there's an insatiable appetite for bandwidth, and so the more spectrum, the better. And when you project out 10 or 20 years, there's clearly, or even 5 years, there's clearly going to be a spectrum shortage, and so more spectrum is better. But the unique aspects of how Wi-Fi works is that you have an incredible amount of spectrum per access point. Right? It's not per cell or sector of cell, it's literally down to an access point level. So there's an awful lot of bandwidth available. You just have, in this world of carrier offload, you end up deploying denser networks. But it's easy to do that in Wi-Fi. That's one of the beauties of the technology.
Yeah, makes sense. Great. Well, Dave, appreciate the time today. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you, Dan.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Again, this is Dan Meyer with RCR Wireless News at the CCA show in Las Vegas. Thanks.